Welcome to another explainer. So, I want you to think about how many meetings you attend in a year. Are we talking dozens, hundreds? Now ask yourself this, how many of those were actually legally valid? Today we're opening up a truly fascinating playbook. We're going to take what you might normally think of as just dry administrative red tape and transform it into the powerful, absolute mechanics behind valid decision-making. We are diving deep into the true anatomy and governance of meetings.
Okay, let's dive into this because it's incredibly common to just assume that if you put a few colleagues in a room to talk, boom, you've got a meeting. But from a strict governance standpoint, a formal meeting is a highly defined, legally recognized assembly. It is definitely not just people talking in a room. And here's the catch. If the proper rules aren't followed to the letter, any decisions made in that room could be completely void.
To understand exactly how this works, we're going to follow a clear life cycle today. 1. What makes a meeting? 2. Requisites of valid meetings. 3. Notice, agenda, and quorum. 4. The secretary's preparations. And finally, 5. The chairman's role.
All right, starting with part 1. What makes a meeting? Let's define the assembly. Before we can even talk about governing anything, we absolutely have to establish the foundational definition of what it is we're looking at. In a specific corporate governance sense, a meeting is defined as the gathering or assembly of two or more persons for the transaction of any lawful business of common interest. Now that word lawful is doing a whole lot of heavy lifting there. The actual purpose of this gathering can be wide-ranging, right? From just exchanging ideas and framing internal rules, all the way to actually passing laws like we see in legislative bodies. But the bottom line is, it absolutely must be for a common, lawful interest.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we categorize these gatherings. They basically split into two main branches, public and private. Public meetings are exactly what they sound like, open to anyone, usually announced via newspaper ads or big posters. Private meetings, however, strictly restrict admission only to members of an association. Think of a company, a trade union, or a private club. And within those private meetings, you've got general meetings, like an annual general meeting where directors are elected and auditors are appointed, and you also have your more focused committee or subcommittee meetings.
Which brings us to part 2. Requisites of valid meetings, the rules of engagement. Now that we know what a meeting is, we really need to look at the macro-level rules. These requisites are the crucial pillars that give any meeting its legal backing and respectability.
So, there are 7 essential requirements to make a meeting valid. And it's actually really helpful to frame these not as frustrating bureaucracy, but as the strict rules of a game. If you want to play the game and you want your decisions legally recognized at the end, you have no choice but to hit all 7 of these marks. Let's run through the first 4. 1. It must be properly convened by a duly authorized person. 2. Proper notice has to be sent to literally everyone entitled to attend, because if you miss someone, the entire proceedings can be invalidated. 3. It has to be held at a lawful place for a lawful purpose, meaning you can't be disturbing the public peace. And 4. A prescribed quorum must be present. And here's the real kicker. That minimum number of people can't just be there at the start to kick things off. The quorum has to be maintained throughout the entire period of the meeting. If enough people get up and leave the room, the meeting legally collapses right then and there. Let's move on and see how this builds with the final 3 pillars. 5. The meeting must always be presided over by a chairman. 6. The proceedings have to be regulated according to the specific law governing that meeting. So, for a company, that's the Articles of Association. For Parliament, it's standing orders. And interestingly enough, if no statutory rules exist, custom, convention, or even the chairman's ruling can actually dictate the rules. Finally, 7. A proper record, the minutes of the proceedings must be kept, written, signed, and confirmed.
All right, moving to part 3, notice, agenda, and quorum, the stage manager's tools. We just mentioned these terms, and they are basically the specific legal tools used to orchestrate the entire thing. They are the absolute lifeblood of corporate governance.
First up is the notice. A notice is an explicit, unconditional invitation to the members. It has to clearly spell out the date, the time, the place, and the exact business to be transacted. The language must be totally free from ambiguity. If there's special business on the docket, it has to be indicated, and any supporting reports have to be attached. If you commit a single error of omission here, it invalidates the notice. And guess what? That invalidates the entire meeting. No pressure, right?
Now, what's really interesting about this is a fascinating concept in corporate law known as clear days. Often, bylaws will stipulate a minimum period of notice, like 21 clear days. This is a legal quirk designed to make sure members have ample travel and prep time. Clear days strictly excludes the day the notice is given and the day the meeting is held. So, just to do the math, if your meeting is on the 23rd of the month, your 21 clear days notice must be mailed out no later than the 1st of the month. It's a very precise mathematical buffer.
Accompanying that notice is the agenda. This outlines the exact items of business. And the agenda is crucial for two big reasons. For the members, it gives them the heads up they need to think in advance and gather relevant info so they can actually have a meaningful discussion. For the chairman, it helps them understand the importance of the items so they can allocate the appropriate amount of time to each one. It's literally the script for the meeting. And then we have the quorum. I really want to deliver this definition with the weight it deserves. A quorum is the minimum number of members required to assemble to establish legal competence. Without a quorum, you lack legal competence, period. Any business transacted without it is automatically 100% invalid.
Now, as a general rule, the word meeting implies at least two people, obviously, but corporate law is full of fascinating loopholes. Under some very specific, exceptional circumstances, a single person can technically constitute a legally valid meeting. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but for example, if one person holds all the shares of a certain class, or if there's only one creditor in a winding-up proceeding, or if a court specifically instructs it, a one-person meeting is occasionally a legal reality.
Let's jump into part 4, the secretary's crucial preparations, architect of the meeting. So we've talked about the rules and the tools, but who actually pulls all these levers? Let's look at the humans running the show, starting with the secretary. They are the true architect. Their flawless preparation is honestly what prevents total chaos. The secretary carries a massive checklist. Chronologically, they start by consulting the chairman to lock in the date and time. Then they prepare and dispatch the notice and agenda, making sure all those strict legal timelines like the clear days we talked about are met. But it gets very physical too. They have to hire the hall, ensure proper seating, good lighting, even make sure there's drinking water. They appoint stewards to politely check entry cards at the door. Before the meeting even kicks off, they have to verify and count proxy votes. And finally, they ensure all physical reports and the chairman's speech are distributed. It's an absolute logistical marathon.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the chairman's powerful role, conductor of proceedings. If the secretary is the architect and the stage manager getting everything set up, the chairman is the ultimate referee and conductor of the actual event, once those doors close.
The chairman holds immense power, but with that comes incredibly strict duties. Before even proceeding, they must actually confirm that their own appointment is in order. They then verify that the meeting was duly convened by checking the notice. As we mentioned, they are personally responsible for checking the quorum at the start and, crucially, maintaining it continuously. But most importantly, when guiding the discussion, they must provide relevant facts objectively, without any personal bias or reservation. They are there to facilitate the organization's will, not push their own agenda. So, the crucial point is this. The chairman is strictly bound to the script. The business of a meeting must be conducted without varying the order of items on the agenda, unless there's some specific procedural allowance to do so. They can't just get bored and skip to the end or go off on a wild tangent. They must guide the assembly through the predefined path. Let's bring this all together with that hard rule we discussed earlier. No business can be transacted unless a quorum is present. Any business transacted without quorum is automatically invalid. This one quote perfectly encapsulates the stakes of everything we've explored today. From the secretary carefully calculating clear days to the chairman constantly doing a head count, it all exists to satisfy the law and guarantee legal competence.
Which leads us with a final thought to ponder. The next time you walk into a boardroom or sign on to a big corporate virtual assembly, I want you to look around. Was the notice explicit? Is the chairman actually sticking to the agenda? Are there really enough people in the room to maintain legal competence? Next time you take your seat, ask yourself, are you absolutely sure this meeting is actually valid? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this changes how you view your everyday corporate gatherings.
See you next time.